There are some fundamental problems and reasons why we are not a little bit slow, but shockingly slow in developing new drugs. I think, the lack, frankly, to be a little bit provocative, the lack of any major phase 3 or even phase 2 readouts at this conference is a sign of how slowly the whole field is moving. Now, partly that's because these are very complicated diseases and they're difficult to understand. The reality is that there's been no intentionally discovered medicine for any central nervous system indication ever, really. So we need to understand the brain, and the brain is very complicated. The primary readout of our trials is cognition, and right now it's still difficult to do a small cognition trial to understand whether a new drug is beneficial or not. So what we find often is that people run mini phase 3 studies. They know they don't have enough subjects in them to answer the question definitively, are we affecting cognition? And then they go to very big phase 3 trials. Those are long and expensive trials. So one thing that we emphasize to all of our companies, even from very early on when we first talk to them, is that we need to understand how to do phase 2 trials better. We need to understand what readouts at a behavior level, at a brain organ level, at a cellular level are really going to give us insight into the success of a later stage trial. The more we bring biomarkers to bear on that, the more we bring the ability to find surrogates even that will tell us whether we're improving brain health, I think the faster we will go in moving some of these innovative projects through clinical trials. But, from the start, as I've said, the reason Dementia Discovery Fund was created is because there's not enough even in the early stage pipeline right now. I think this is changing. I hope it's going to change. We need to bring more momentum into even the most basic science in dementia to make that happen. I think it's because it's difficult and because the recent history of trials in this area has been of very expensive, very long-term trials that ultimately were unsuccessful. So we need to provide the people who can fund those trials with reason to believe that they're going to be successful. If you look at immuno-oncology, right now it's a spectacularly well-resourced area. And the reason for that is because pioneering scientists were able to prove success in that approach, where for years people told them they weren't going to succeed. At Dementia Discovery Fund, one of our key objectives is to fund the projects that are going to create the reason to believe, so that public funders put more money into dementia, so that private funders put more money into dementia. And I think importantly also, so that more of the best and brightest young scientists are going into dementia research. Because right now, if you were a bright young scientist choosing a career, you might be forgiven for being worried about whether there's a future in dementia research, particularly in the biotech industry. We want to erase that concern and make sure that everybody wants to choose dementia research first.